Dan, I got to come over to you first. Your price target on Tesla, 500. That's about a 60% increase from where it sits right now. Do you still see that possibility with this war of words between the president and the Tesla CEO?
Yeah, look, Frank, I mean, obviously, friends that are fighting here, but I think they're going to be able to resolve this. I mean, my view, the autonomous, the regulatory future does not change because of this. And I think Trump will ultimately be positive for Musk, for the autonomous future. Look, it's a little frenemy situation that's going on here between Musk and Trump. I think it will be resolved. This does not change my medium, long-term view, remain very bullish, and I think way, way oversold Tesla yesterday.
All right, Sarah, coming over to you. Dan continues to be a bull when it comes to the stock and the EV maker, but a lot more at stake than just EVs when we're talking about Tesla. We're talking about robotics and autonomous driving. What's your take on this spat? And some of the things that Elon Musk honestly just said on social media, what do you think that means for the businesses outside just the EVs?
I think that is really where the concern is going to lie. The reality is that if you are valuing Tesla as a car company, you would be valuing it at kind of a 6 or 7 PE ratio, similar to a GM or a Toyota, not the sort of 160 that it is right now. And so that's a huge discount you have to take if you just think they're making cars. So the story that's been sold around robots, I find it hard to believe that they're anywhere near ready, not to mention that we've seen, what China's doing with robots, what other big tech companies are doing. It doesn't seem likely that Tesla is going to be the early winner in that space, nor do they have buyers lined up. And the same with the self-driving cars and the cyber taxis. Waymo is really far ahead, way far ahead there. And, it is not clear what this June rollout's going to look like. And so I think that if you don't believe that Tesla has some sort of magical regulatory capture, it's really, really, really hard to feel good about where the valuation stands now. And I think even the Wells Fargo, that sort of 100 and something low price target right now on the street is probably too high if it's trading on real multiples.
Yeah, right now we're looking at the current multiple. Tesla trading at about 132 times forward earnings, as you point out. Legacy automakers at a significantly lower valuation. GM at about 5 times, Ford at about 8.5 times right now. So Dan Ives, I want to come back over to you. One of the things that these two sides are fighting about is the removal of EV credits in the so-called Big Beautiful Bill. How big of a deal is that really for Tesla? It seems to be one of the critical kind of points of contention between these two gentlemen. When we're talking about the stock and the future of the EV business, how big is it?
Again, first, I just say to Sarah's point, I mean, haters always hate on Tesla, and they've been wrong for the last decade, right? So calling Tesla a car company, it's like saying Steph Curry is just a basketball player. In terms of, that's sort of my view. Scheffler is just a golfer. And in terms of the EV tax credit, look, that continues to be something we've already assumed that goes away. It's a hit, but ultimately, I mean, Tesla is hurt less than the traditional car companies, GM, Fords, and others. And I think it's all about autonomous and robotics. I think it's worth $1 trillion. And I think Waymo essentially will be at the kids' table when this is all said and done as they scale out over the coming years with Cybercab and Robotaxi.
So, number one, I think we're past a hater situation, Dan, in all fairness. This is beyond haters. This is some real issues potentially when it comes to regulation. I mean, that's why the stock ran up after the elections, that people thought it would be a friendlier regulatory environment. And just in all fairness, our Phil LeBeau did some great reporting on this, on all the different government agencies that touch some of the different businesses that Elon Musk is in. Not only does it impact self-driving, but also, the space program, you saw them fighting about that. If there's any change to regulation beyond EVs, if it's some of the other businesses and Elon Musk has to put his attention over there, doesn't that potentially hurt the stock? And isn't that going beyond just hating?
Yeah, and Frank, great point. And my point would be, it's all about autonomous. In a softer regulatory environment for autonomous. Remember, next week is when it launched in terms of Austin, the start of this. And I just believe under Trump, it's going to be a softer regulatory environment for autonomous, which is bullish for Tesla. And I do not believe this frenemy situation that's going on today. I think it gets resolved and they become friends again. And I just think that bromance is not ending because of this little spat.
All right, Sarah, coming back over to you. Obviously, Elon Musk has a lot of big-time investments in companies in the private market as well. As we're looking at those private company investments, we're showing the Forge Global moves. And again, that's directional. You shouldn't really look at the percentages, more directional. Does it change your view when we're talking about an XAI? Does it change your view when we're talking about a SpaceX, about the valuation and the possibilities?
I think that SpaceX is really at risk here as well. They already have brought that into their fight. And the thing to remember about, Elon likes to have fights. When you look at his track records with his companies, and even people like Peter Thiel that he's really close with, he's also been really not close with at times. He can sort of have that rupture and repair, to use my therapy speak. Trump isn't so great at that. We don't usually see Trump have these huge knockdown dragouts and then go back to everything like it's normal, unless he's doing a guest spot on WWE. And so I do think that this is going to stick with Trump, even if Musk gets over it. And SpaceX, that's a huge risk, because even though their Starlink business is much bigger than sort of the business of, Dragon and taking people to and from the International Space Station, the reality is that if regulators say, hey, you can't do this, NASA doesn't want to work with you anymore, we're not renewing these contracts, because there are other companies that can fulfill some of these contracts, that's not good for SpaceX. And I think a lot of the value that people are kind of giving Elon a pass on with X and the related X companies is because of their faith in the value of things like SpaceX and Tesla. Most of those private investors have exposure across the portfolio of Musk companies. And so if Tesla's going down, if SpaceX doesn't have regulatory support, and there's questions about its sort of long-term longevity with huge space programs, I think that is a huge risk for everything Elon touches.
So, Sarah, we're going to give Dan the last word, but very quickly, what's your view on the stock? It's up 5% right now in the pre-market, bouncing back after a big drop yesterday. But what's your view on Tesla stock?
Tesla shareholders, largely who've been buying this year, are retail bag holders. They have diamond hands. I would not bet against them. You won't find me shorting Tesla. That being said, I hope that they get out at the top, because these are not Main Street. These are not Wall Street. This is Main Street.
Dan, I see you making some faces. I'm going to ask you the same question. I know you're not changing your price target, but so I know how you feel about Tesla, but what about its competitors? What about the rest of the EV landscape? Are there other winners out of this spat? Do other EV companies benefit from this?
Well, first of all, I think Sarah brought up a great point. When you talk about WWE, I mean, it's possible Musk and Trump are not watching this from, the seats. They could be in the ring soon, right? So you don't know where this is all heading. I think when it comes to others that could benefit, I mean, obviously it's going to be, does BYD benefit in terms of some of these situations when you think about China? Do some of the traditional players, how does Waymo benefit, in terms of Alphabet? But I just believe at the top of the mountain in terms of autonomous, I think it's Tesla's world, and everyone else will be paying rent over the coming years.